Ողջույն այնակիցներ, Alpha News-ի Los Angeles-ի տաղավարում այսօր հյուրընկալել են Բըրբանքի քաղաքապետ պարոն Կոնստանտին Էնթոնին. Hello Mayor, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, appreciate it.
First of all, I want to thank you for your support to Armenian community. We all know what was going on in Burbank last week. And thanks for your patience. You know, our people were yelling, chanting, street closure, freeway closure. And you were so patient and you visited us a few times. I know you visited also Azerbaijan embassy the last few days. By the way, did you get any complaints from Burbank residents about?
So a good protest always has complaints, right? The idea to protest means that you have to make it uncomfortable. You have to make it inconvenient. If a protest is easy to ignore, it's not a very good protest.
Right, so you got it. By the way, did you get any calls from like local or state officials or even higher?
Yeah, so I was talking with a lot of local officials. I did some outreach. Many of the people that I talked to are in agreement. Something needs to happen. The blockade right now is starving out 120,000 people. It's been months. It's not just been days. Most people are just hearing about it, this week. I mean, obviously, the Armenian families in Burbank and in Glendale, they've been aware for months now. But the rest of the world is just now starting to take notice. And I don't know why it's taken so long, but I keep telling people, I'm like, this is not new. This is something we've been dealing with for most of the year. And it's gotten to a point where we have to do something. People are out of food, they're out of water, they're out of electricity, and now I hear they're shutting down the internet. It's too much.
Yeah, during this week, last few weeks actually, I had very little conversation with you, and I learned that you have a lot of knowledge about the Armenian cause. Is it because of the city you are mayor? Armenian, there is like, if I'm not mistaken, 20% are Armenian.
Yeah. Or
your background. We know you're Greek, and both our nations share the same history of genocide, 100 years ago.
The culture between Greeks and Armenians is very close. And so I've always been aware of what's been going on, but since being elected to Burbank office, I have taken it upon myself to keep apprised of what's happening in Armenia, because a lot of our constituents have family still in the home country.
Right.
It's just like in the Greek culture, we have family back home and we bring them out here, we send money back, we have strong ties to the community. And so I know when I talk to the Armenian constituents in Burbank, they're very worried about what's happening. Not just because it's the home of their ancestors, but because they literally have family back home that are dealing with it.
Right. So if you are aware of what's going on right now, yesterday there was a UN Security Council meeting, and we were trying to reach them. Even Representative Adam Schiff sent a letter to Biden administration urging them to help this. Anyways, there were a lot of talks, good talks, nice talks, but no actions, We need that action. Why do you think like civil war is so hypocrite, maybe, let me say that? Because, when it comes to Ukraine, they do a lot. But the same thing happened 3 years ago in Artsakh, and now like people are facing genocide, but there's just like talks, no actions.
So I have always been very supportive of my Congress member, Adam Schiff. He knows, like I know, that you cannot simply stay neutral in these actions. There's a very famous quote from a bishop in South Africa, Desmond Tutu. He says, if you stay neutral in issues of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. What does that mean? When there's someone actively hurting another person, or a group actively hurting another group, or a country hurting another country, you cannot simply walk in and say, hey, both sides need to come together.
Right.
I have to stay neutral, let's talk it out. That already comes from a place of weakness, because you know that one group is hurting someone else. So you have to come forward and stand with the people being oppressed. Whether or not you agree with them politically, or you think they're the perfect people, or they've made all their decisions correctly, that's not what it's about. I use the example of Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine hasn't been a perfect country. We don't agree with them politically on many issues, but we know that the people of Ukraine, not their leadership, not their politicians, the people of Ukraine are suffering. And so we have bent over backwards to support them in the Russian aggression on their soil. So why aren't we doing the same with Artsakh and Armenia when we know that Azerbaijan is actively harming people, actively blocking transport and aid from entering the region? And in fact, one of the worst parts about this entire situation, a lot of the weaponry and military and training and financing that Azerbaijan has, that's us. We supported them. We gave them all of that. And now they're using it to hurt another country. And it's just very disappointing.
But do you have the answer? Why is it happening? Is it because of the oil and gas and political interests, or Biden administration recognized the Armenian genocide, but abandoned Artsakh right now, which is facing another genocide?
I can't be sure what the actual implications are behind the refusal to do anything. There is, confidential information, there's things happening behind closed doors, but historically, we know that smaller countries get used as political chess pieces on a larger board game. It's unfortunate. We see the same thing happening right now in NATO with Sweden and Turkey, and who's playing what game and how they're trading pieces. It's not right. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the reality of the global scale. And so my hope is that enough people come together, enough members of the UN stand up and say, we're not going to play this game anymore. We know at the meeting yesterday, a number of countries stood up and said, we need to remove the blockade. Azerbaijan needs to get out of the way and let humanitarian aid get through. We're not talking about military or arms, just food and healthcare and first aid and doctors, clean water. That's really the first step, and it's unfortunate that even that is being refused.
What do you think Biden administration could do in this situation to help people in Artsakh?
Well, there's a lot that the president and the current administration could do to help. There's a lot of back channels that we know the United States can use in the surrounding region to get aid in and out of Artsakh. But what I would say is all of that action that the president could take, it starts with Americans standing up and demanding it. Right. It doesn't matter how many members of the UN.
You think that's helpful?
I think the protests
are
yes,
helpful.
Yes. There was a really great moment last week after the protesters had shut down the freeway.
Right.
And everyone came back in the middle of the night.
You were waiting there.
Back to Burbank. We were in front of Burbank City Hall. Right. And I was talking to the folks who had just been out on the streets. They hadn't hurt anybody. They hadn't vandalized anything. There was no destruction of property, no injuries. And they did this really big, loud protest that got a lot of media coverage. And I said to them, you have created a easy story for people to get behind. Right. You blocked the freeway, and how difficult was that for people to get through? You in fact created a blockade, and that showed the people what's happening in Artsakh, a blockade for a blockade. And to show that, to tell people in real life how difficult it is to get through just moving from one place to another. It resonated with folks who are not Armenian, who don't know what's happening overseas, because they couldn't get to where they needed to get to. And I tell people all the time, like, don't complain to me, because that's what people overseas are dealing with right now. They can't get their ambulances through. They can't get their food trucks through. They can't get any of the supplies that they need through. And that's been going on for months. So you only had it for a few hours.
And thank you for that, sir. Let me ask you a few questions outside of Armenian, because I know, like everyone thinks like being mayor of Burbank, especially for a person who comes from media, and I know you are an actor, comedian, and it's like dream comes true, right? But I know you're running for LA County Supervisor. Why?
So I had no desire to get into politics.
Yeah, because the Burbank is media capital of the world, right?
Yes,
Considered.
yes. So when I ran for office, it made sense because I had been in the studio system. I had been working as an actor for many years. I was a comedian for a long time. And even now, when I look at what's happening with the writer's strike and the actor's strike, the reason I ran is because people who were working day to day, who were trying to pay for food on the table and put a roof over their heads and trying to just keep their families surviving, were not making money, were not being treated well at work, were becoming homeless. These were big issues. And so for me, everything that I've done the last few years, and in fact, even today, out on the strike lines, I've been on the picket lines for months now, in front of Warner Brothers, in front of Disney.
Right.
It comes back to that neutrality. We cannot stay neutral. We know that the rich and the powerful, the people who make decisions about these wars, about which country to support, which humanitarian aid to send to, how much we're going to pay people, if we're going to pay people, fire them, don't fire them, all of those decisions are done by a very small number of people. Very rich, very wealthy, very powerful. And so for me, running for office, getting involved in government, it was the best way I knew to push back against that, to make sure we were fighting for the people on the ground. Since I've been in office, I helped pass a number of pieces of legislation. We are expanding the rebates for utilities, so water and gas and electric, all of those things. If it's too expensive for you, now you can go to the city and say, hey, can I get a discount? We are having unprecedented talks right now about helping renters and tenant protections. Just last month, we set aside $500,000 to people in Burbank who were evicted from their homes. Right. If you were evicted, you can call the city now and say, hey, can I please have some money for moving assistance and my security deposit? $500,000, that was a lot. So we're doing all these things to help working people, to help immigrant families. Right now I am running to be county supervisor, which is the next level up from city. More city, county, state, federal.
More power, no more decision, more influence.
And more influence. That's the key. I want to be able...
I know you are not taking big money, right? Super PACs.
Yes. So I'm the only candidate in this race. I don't take corporate money. I don't take PAC money. I don't take real estate money, because a lot of LA County is run by real estate, people who own the land.
Right.
I don't take fossil fuel money. That is another major issue that's happening in this country. So many fossil fuel companies buy and sell politicians because they're beholden to the fossil fuels. It goes all the way back to what's happening in Armenia right now. The Russian war in Ukraine, Azerbaijan. Why are we fighting over oil and natural gas and coal? It's because Americans buy it. We pay for that stuff. So all of the things that I'm running on, it boils down to the working people, the immigrant families of the county. I want to expand the Office of Immigration Affairs. The county right now, if you call them and say, hey, my family's back home, I want to bring them out here where it's safer, how do I get them refugee status? How do I get them a green card? How do I get them a work visa? The county says, oh, call these numbers, get it done. Nobody helps you. Nobody helps you fill out the paperwork. Nobody finds you a lawyer. Nobody gets you a grant or a bonus or any kind of monetary donation to help you pay for all that stuff. The average American to get citizenship costs somewhere around $7,000.
Right.
That's huge for people. I want to fundamentally change that at the county level because we have a lot of Armenians, we have a lot of Chinese, we have a lot of Hispanic and South American individuals, Korean, Filipino, so many people coming to this county from outside the country, and they want to work and live just like everybody else. But we have such a problem getting people green cards, getting people work visas, and they're forced to get jobs that pay less, that pay cash, so no benefits, no health care. And these big companies take advantage of that.
Right.
They know. And so you can go anywhere and you can find these big corporations paying 3 or 4 people working in the back, cash under the table, and it's not right.
And they don't pay taxes.
And they don't pay taxes on it.
So how important Armenian voices are for you? And do you have a team that works with the Armenian communities?
Yes.
And the cities, which areas are like Bourbon, Glendale, Pasadena, there, right?
So the seat that I'm running for, District 5, has the most Armenians outside of Armenia.
Wow.
Anywhere in the world. The most Armenians outside of Armenia, anywhere in the world. It's Burbank, it's Glendale, it's Pasadena. It's North Hollywood, it's Los Feliz, it's Santa Clarita, Montrose, Glendora,
Palmdale, Lancaster.
Lancaster, yep, Studio City, all of that area, the north side of LA County. And for me, doing the outreach to Armenian voters is key. I need them to understand that I'm fighting for them. That when I get into that seat, I am going to be the most pro-Armenian supervisor we've ever had.
That's perfect. I hope we will have another conversation here when the campaign kicks off, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's on March next year, March 5th?
March 5th, yes, yeah. Please. And the last thing I'll say is, one of the big issues that I'm running on right now, our county is building housing that is so small. We're building studio apartments and 1-bedrooms. I don't know how many Armenian families you know that can live in a studio apartment or a 1-bedroom. Right. So I'm going to fundamentally shift the way we build housing. We need 3, 4, and townhome style housing, big units where my mother can come and live with me, and everyone's cousin and uncle and can come in and live. That's how we live. We live multi-generationally. Right. We have families that live together. And so what I want to do is change the very city that we live in, all the cities that we live in, so that the county is more open and inviting to immigrant families and families that bring in folks from the home country to live with us and have that path forward.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you.
I wish you good luck, and I hope to see you again here.
Absolutely.
During this next month, maybe until March, and after that too. Yeah. And if you have anything to add, please do it.
I'll just say I'd love to come back, and to the people watching at home, support the protesters. It's gonna get loud and it's gonna get big before it gets better. And so we need to keep being out there. We need to stay out in the streets. This country was built on protest. That is our First Amendment right. Many countries don't have that ability, but we have it. So get out there, and I'll see you out there. I'll be there with you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Սիրելի այնակիցներ, հիշեցնեմ, որ իմ զրուցակիցն էր Բըրբանք քաղաքի քաղաքապետ պարոն Կոնստանտին Էնթոնին, ով նաև այժմ պայքարում է Լոս Անջելեսի վարչական շրջանի ղեկավարի համար, առայժմ կհանդիպենք։